by this time, you have received your instrument. We're going to go over how to open up your case and assemble your alto saxophone. So this case, we're going to talk about how to open it and the proper way to open it. First off, you'll notice is that there is a name here, LeBlanc. Yours might differ. You might have a different name. Either way, as long as the name is facing up, your case is probably in the right position, but just to double check. Some cases have names on both sides. So we're going to talk about these, which are called latches, but I like to nickname them flip-ups. With the beginner band, I think it helps to remember something simple, that the latches flip up. And if they flip up, your case is in the right position. Simple rhyme I came up with to help students remember, if your flip-ups flip down, your case is upside down, you need to turn it around. So we're going to close this to make sure our saxophone doesn't fall. We're going to turn our case around, and we're going to open our flip-ups. They flip up, bada boom, open up our case, and inside we have this glorious alto saxophone. Now the alto sax isn't too difficult to put together. There's only two main pieces. You have the main body of the saxophone, you have the neck, and those are the main two pieces. You also have the mouthpiece here. So we'll talk about all this in just a second. First and foremost, you want to make sure you put your neck strap on. Now we're going to talk about how to adjust this so it sits properly. If you don't adjust this properly, you're going to be supporting your saxophone with one thumb. And if you can imagine supporting this entire piece of metal with one thumb, that thumb's going to get tired after a while. So we will come back to this neck strap, but know that this has to go around your neck, and if set up properly, your saxophone will be supported by your neck, which is going to be a lot stronger than your single thumb. So with that, we're going to grab the, let's start off with the neck of the saxophone. You see how it's wrapped in cork. Just like the clarinet, it's going to need cork grease. So we're going to take this cork grease and we're going to rub it around, not the entire cork, because we don't need to bring our mouthpiece all the way down on the cork. So we're going to rub it maybe halfway down, from the edge to about halfway down. And I'm going to rub it around in circles like this. That's going to ensure that it gets over the widest area that we need. And it's going to make sure it distributes it well over that entire area. Another step you can do, if you're not afraid of getting grease on your fingers, you can kind of rub it just to make sure that it's evenly distributed. Kind of move it around, and then make sure you take a Kleenex and wipe your fingers, so then you don't get grease all over your new saxophone. So now that the neck is greased, the cork is greased, we're going to set that aside. We're going to grab the body of the saxophone. You can do it with two hands. I would recommend grabbing it by the bell. Notice how it's flanged here. It's a nice little cup for you to grab it, so it's not that bad of a place to grab it. The other place you can grab it is this little thumb rest, so you can kind of grab it and wrap your fingers around. I prefer around the bell. I just feel that I get a stronger grip right here, and it just feels more secure. From extra security, you can grab with both hands. Just know that at one point, as in now, I'm going to move this case aside so you can see, is that I'm going to have to attach my neck strap to this little ring here that's on the back of your alto sax. Okay, your thumb rest and the ring. So I'm going to take this little clip. It might require some strength, so you might need to push this little piece. Let's see if I can twist that. There we go. It might have to push in, so we're going to have to apply some pressure to snap that on. And all of a sudden, my saxophone is secure to my body. Okay, so I can lay this in my lap, sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor, and I can grab my neck now. Now I'm ready to put the two pieces together. So I'm going to stand this up. Maybe hold it toward the top for stability. Make sure that the collar screw is unscrewed a little bit. You want to make sure that it's not too tight. That's going to kind of pinch these two pieces of metal together and hold the neck in. So taking this, you don't want to jam it in. You want to make sure it's not at an angle so you don't bend the metal. You want to make sure that's flush or even Steven. Take that. We're going to twist it back and forth. Shouldn't take a lot of pressure. There we go. So twist back and forth, it goes down easily. If you need help, make sure you ask your parents for help if it's being troublesome or it won't go down. But it should freely move up and down. Even with, you see some discoloration here, some oxidation, and that happens naturally over time. Even with that, I'm able to kind of twist it and move it, even with some resistance. So yours is going to be brand new, so you shouldn't have any trouble. Also, I want to make sure that this little post here is in the middle of this little collar here. This is important. We'll talk about this later. This is part of the octave mechanism that's going to make your notes sound higher. So we want to make sure that that is there. One thing you want to be careful of is that you do not push your octave key down when assembling this, because this collar will come in direct contact with that post. And I have seen cases where students were in a hurry, they've slammed this down, or were late to band, they kind of hurried up, and then they end up bending this post or damaging this entire piece here, which is the octave key. So we want to just make sure that, you know, we are clear of this post with that collar of the octave mechanism. There we go. And after everything is set, it looks straight, maybe a little adjustment to get it ready. Good. So after that, I can tighten this down. Be careful that you don't tighten this too hard. You don't need to crank it down. If you do, this little bolt here, this little thumb screw, can snap off inside this, this pinch joint here, and that's going to create some trouble. So we want to make sure we don't pinch it, we don't screw it in too hard. Just nice and snug. Okay, so if it's getting too hard and you feel like, you know, your fingers are hurting, you probably tighten it too much. Okay, so with that, your neck should still be able to move a little bit, but it should be pretty secure to the point where you'd really need to bang it to knock it out of the way. So I'm going to grab my mouthpiece next. Remember that we greased this cork, so it is ready to take this mouthpiece and slide it on. We are going to do the same thing with our mouthpiece that we did with the neck and the body. We're going to twist this back and forth gently, but firmly, and make sure that goes down maybe about halfway. That's a good starting point. I don't have a lot of extra grease, but if you do have some extra grease kind of spilling out the end, you can just take a paper towel or a Kleenex and kind of wipe that off and take care of that. After that, your saxophone is assembled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to show you how to adjust your neck strap when you're sitting in the chair, so then your thumb isn't supporting the saxophone. Okay, so stand up here, make sure that I hold my saxophone while moving, make sure it's not swinging around and hitting my dresser or other objects in my room. Now, I have everything kind of in line. Feels comfortable. However, when I go to hold the saxophone, you will notice that the mouthpiece is at my neck. That's not going to work, obviously, right? So we're going to have to adjust this little piece here, okay? So this is typical kind of system you'd see on like a belt or things that would fasten other pieces of material down. But we're going to slide this up, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain, so you might need to pull down here to pull that up. So you might need both hands. So at that point you might need your saxophone maybe in your lap. Just make sure that it's secured when you're doing this with both hands so you don't drop your sax. I'm going to show you that one more time. So if this little collar here doesn't come up right away, and if it's kind of being a pain, which mine is right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, my right hand or whichever hand you use, and take the other hand, grip the collar, hold these pieces back, the back pieces of the strap, and pull down, and that's going to help it move up. What that does is this collar locks it in so it doesn't get loose when you're playing and doesn't totally go back to where it was. It's a nice simple mechanism. So now I can see, all right, it's right under my chin. It's almost ready. It's almost ready to play. So I'm going to adjust a little more. This is going to take a little bit of time, so be patient. It's okay if it takes some time. Okay. That's a pretty good. I'm actually going to just adjust it just a little bit higher, just to make sure that when I bring the saxophone up, that mouthpiece goes right into my mouth and I don't have to adjust my body to the saxophone. Something that Mr. Kluge, I remember him saying, and it stuck with me, is never adjust your body to the instrument. Always adjust the instrument to your body, because you don't want to have to hunch over like this to play. You don't want to be up here with your saxophone going up here into your mouth. You want to sit nice and comfy like you would, back straight like your parents tell you to sit at the dinner table, and you want to make sure you have a good posture. Now if I bring this up, thumb in the thumb loop right here, the thumb support, I'm going to push the saxophone out with that thumb. I'm literally pushing it out, and that mouthpiece should go right into my mouth like that. Now that's pretty comfy. Right now I feel all the support in my neck and really no downward pressure from this onto my thumb because I set this up properly. If I didn't, all that downward pressure of the saxophone would be pushing down on my thumb, and eventually it would lead to a lot of soreness and pain in my thumb, which we don't want anyone to experience. So this is very important that we set this up, and this is unique to saxophonists. Okay, so again, I will bring this out, I will push that out, and it should go right in my mouth. Okay, and after that, I know my neck strap is set up. If you have a small enough head, I don't think, mine might be small enough, you might be able to leave this set up as it is. Most people do have to readjust it to take it off their head, especially, you know, if you don't want to mess up your nice do, you might need to readjust it. So just some things to think about. And then after I'm done playing, what we're going to do is we're going to carry the saxophone. 2 hands, I prefer. After a while, you know, after middle school, high school, after you're used to playing this, you might be able to hold it with 1 hand. But I'm going to show you with 2 hands. I'm going to get back on the floor. I'm going to make sure I sit crisscross applesauce, right? And if you need to, you know, you can, if you can't balance that well, you can use 1 hand to kind of support yourself. But now I have it in my lap. There is no chance of this falling over because it's still attached to my neck strap. I'm going to open my case. I'm going to take my mouthpiece off, ready to put everything away. Notice how I did the same thing. I was twisting and pulling. Okay, mouthpiece goes back in the little hole right there. Nice little spot for it. Now the neck, the pinch screw, want to unscrew that a little bit. It doesn't need to come all the way out, but you can just a couple turns, and that should be loose enough to kind of twist the neck and take that off. Okay, now you can put that back in here. Don't worry about some of the cork grease getting on the nice fabric, the fur on the inside. That's going to happen. That's just natural with this case. It's natural with woodwind instruments, saxophones and clarinets. I know a lot of students worry about that, but that's going to happen. That's the nature of the instrument. And then this is going to be one of the hardest things, especially if you don't have a lot of finger strength, is to push on this piece here to unclasp the neck strap from the body of the saxophone. From here, you are set to put this away. Your saxophone is going to include a reed, a ligature, maybe even more than 1 reed, and also it's going to have a swab. We will go over how to deal with all those things in our first lesson. From here, notice that it's kind of hard to get it, it's kind of uncomfy, so this isn't going to be able to be removed without resetting everything. So just make sure every time you sit down with your saxophone, you take that time to set your neck strap. Like I said, I don't want anyone with thumb pain, because if you're a gamer, you know that if you have sore thumbs, you're not going to be able to play your Fortnite and Rocket League and all the things you like. So make sure this is set up for your neck and not for your thumb. I'm going to put that back in this little pocket. I'm going to close my case up. I'm going to close my flip-ups. Make sure that they're secured, push down. The last thing I want to do is to pick this case up and my latches aren't secured, and then everything spills out all over the floor. And if you have a hardwood floor, a tile floor, that can be very dangerous for your saxophone. So hopefully this helped out a lot, and I will see you playing at our next lesson.